Number 10, Pirates of the Caribbean 4 on Stranger Tides. Thank you very much.
Boring, but it's worth saying that you've seen all the news stories about Johnny Depp is in conversation, for a script for Pirates 5, to which the answer is yes, if only they had a script for Pirates 5.
And at number 9 is The Hangover Part 2.
Which is vulgar, crass, stupid, boring, and nothing like as funny as it thinks it is. And it's essentially all the jokes from the first film, but done louder and shoutier and more sweary.
By the way, we are being live streamed as ever, and you're very welcome to watch the excitement. And
yeah, particularly since your hair has just gone a bit mad.
Has it?
Yeah, you've done you've done that thing that young people do of having it's not a Mohican, it's like a mohawk, spiky up in the middle.
From the man whose hair never moves ever.
Exactly.
Number 7, Zindagi Za Malegi Dubara.
Yes, now, we went on last week, and so I'm not sure whether this was press screened or not, but I certainly didn't see it, but you tweeted for a review.
So, yes, some listener reviews. Amar says, first a translation of the title, You Don't Have to Live Twice, which is the literal translation. Okay. More meaningful translation, You Only Live Once. The movie is about 3 childhood friends who are now working in different parts of the world and decide to meet up in Spain for a bachelor trip, as one of them is getting married soon.
This is the Hangover part, duh.
It does, really. The trip comprises of each of them recommending an activity for all of them to do, and the others have to do it. It's Hangover Bollywood style. The only difference here is what happens in Spain doesn't stay in Spain, but it's an entertaining watch.
Very good.
Says Amar.
Thank you for
and
that,
Jamie
Amar.
Says, nice locations, some touching moments, and an amiable feel make a good alternative to robots, wizards, and animated automobiles.
Very good.
So it's the Tree of Life, number 6.
Well, I like it, but with reservations. I think there is some correspondence about this. I don't know whether you want to do... Okay, fine. I mean, when I reviewed it, I said when we got to the film of the week, it would be foolish in a week in which there was a Terrence Malick film out not to understand that, historically speaking, obviously that's the more important film. And there are things in Tree of Life that remind you of the great poetry of Malick. The problem with it is there are some sections, the dinosaur section particularly, that aren't very well judged. And I have a fondness for narrative, and I think he said more profound things in a more narrative way. I do like all the Doug Trumbull effects, though.
Alex Damon, who's listing in the Blue Mountains of Australia.
Oh, yeah.
I just jumped to a point in your latest podcast where I thought you'd be reviewing Tree of Life because I saw it last week. I was interested to hear your take on it. When I heard phrases like, by far and away the worst film at Cannes, and it's not a film...
I never said that.
It's not a film in any understandable meaning of the word, and The Emperor Has No Clothes, I called excitedly to my partner, Alison, hey, come and listen to this. He hated it too. Right. Only to find out that you were, in fact, talking about Jean-Luc Godard's latest...
Film Socialisme.
Which I haven't seen.
Your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of avant-garde.
Then... What would avant-garde smell like?
It's about pew, you silly English pig dogs.
No. Apart from the python, what would avant-garde smell like?
It would smell like overripe cheese that has been mouldering in a fridge.
Then, far from giving the Tree of Life the serve it so richly deserved, you went on in an almost reverent attempt to redeem the totally irredeemable. I have never walked out of a film, except when I broke up with a girlfriend during The Postman Always Rings Twice. I think it was the bit with the table at the start, which reminded me of what wasn't happening. Anyway, I just skipped that. But this tripe,
I would, actually.
This tripe pushed me to the absolute limit. 25 minutes into the mind-numbing creation animation, much of which I could have knocked up with a box of watercolours and a lava lamp, the exodus began in earnest, and the raptor with the heart of gold saw many more off. I haven't seen a theatre which wasn't on fire begin to empty quite so quickly. It's true that when actual actors are reintroduced, 40 minutes in, things improve, but I suspect only in the way that a person subject to sensory deprivation by their torturers for long enough welcomes the sight of other human beings, even if they're only there to attach genital electrodes. Yes, it should have been a moving subject, the loss of a family member, but I couldn't generate any sympathy for a mother who seemed to spend her entire time dangling her feet in the sprinkler.
Okay. I mean, as I believe we tried to... I mean, I disagree with the stuff about the knocked it up with the lava lamp, because that, the Doug Trumbull stuff I do like. The problem with the Jurassic Park stuff is not that the special effects aren't, every bit as tip-top as you'd expect modern CG dinosaurs to be, but just that the piece itself is rather trite. And there are moments in it in which you do expect to hear somebody say, Eternity by Calvin Klein, because there is a lot of whispered dialogue in that way. However, I do think that despite all its flaws, and the flaws are many, it is still it's an honest film. It's the work of somebody who's genuinely trying to do something, artistic and transcendent, even though they are quite often falling flat on their face, because in the end, what narrative structure does for you is it often enables you to approach profundity in a way which isn't simply crass and inane. And there are certainly things in this that do teeter on the crass, inane and laughable. In the screening that I was in the bit with the dinosaur with a heart of gold, people came very close to booing.
Do you think Alan Yentob wears a fragrance? An aftershave? Because that might
controversy.
That might
Alan
be
Yentob.
That could be the smell of avant-garde. Because I think that would work. He should do that, shouldn't he? Definitely should. Ollie in London saw The Tree of Life twice last week. After the first viewing, with Dr. K's concerns still fresh in my mind, I felt inclined to agree with him, but in the end, I left the cinema not knowing whether I actually liked it or not.
Yeah, well, I think is a fairly common response to
after watching Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain on Blu-ray,
which I really like,
I was compelled to revisit the cinema to view The Tree of Life a second time, there being a clear parallel between the two films. This time I came out entranced. Knowing more what to expect, I let it wash over me like a stream of consciousness. Malik's soul was being laid bare, and this is the smell of avant-garde to me. It was timely to see a film about the conflict between nature and grace, for if the news had shown us anything recently, it's that we've lost a lot of grace.
I mean, I think that's a perfectly valid response.
As I've never seen Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain, why would that explain The Tree of Life?
The Fountain was a total disaster of a movie. I think the two people in the world that liked it were me and Nigel three, probably presumably Darren Aronofsky liked it as well. And it was a sort of a visionary voyage through time, space, the universe and the meaning of life, but it was 89 minutes long or 90 minutes long, and it had sort of, great extravagant special effects sequences in it, and yet it was to many people just completely baffling. And it is true that if you saw that that would be a very interesting double bill, that and Tree of Life, and see which one of them, if either, tested your patience the more. But I like both of them. I have to say I like The Fountain more because it's faster.
The Guard is at number 5.
Which I haven't seen The Guard. We were off that week, I'm afraid.
OK, sorry about that. Kung Fu Panda 2, it's good.
Yes, well, it's better in 2D than in 3D.
Bridesmaids is at number 3. This from Andrew Sutcliffe in Rotherham. Having heard the review of Bridesmaids, I'm convinced that the edible spray talked about by Mark, given as a gift before watching this film...
it was the edible body glitter.
Yeah,
edible body glitter.
OK. Well, I think, says Andrew, it was toxic and highly hallucinogenic. This makes more sense than the apparent
why it was that he enjoyed
sober
the film,
review in which the good doctor laughed 6 times. Where exactly? Yeah, there were some chuckles and a few smirks, mainly from Matt Lucas, but laughs? I had no edible spray to warm me up. I decided not to, and endured the worst 2 hours of screen humour since the last crass, lowest denominating, lazy laughs blockbuster.
Thank you. Yeah, fine. I mean, we've had an awful lot of correspondence from people telling us how much they didn't enjoy Bridesmaids. It doesn't change the fact that I did laugh. And I'll tell you right now, I laughed more in Bridesmaids than I did in Horrible Bosses.
Don't spoil it.
OK.
That's a spoiler of your review.
Or maybe I didn't.
Well, except that you did, because you just said so.
Yeah, because I don't think it's a spoiler of the review, because you and I are going to have a little bit of a...
No, don't think so. I might just be more in touch with
that's not spoiler, right?
Transformers at number 2, Jerry in Dublin.
Blimey, Charlie.
A cheaper way to endure the Transformers 3 movie-going experience. Visit your nearest building site, stand between a pneumatic drill that's been dialed up to 11 whilst getting your friend to roar knock-knock jokes at you for 2.5 hours. This is more or less on a par with what Michael Bay has produced in terms of spectacle and wit.
Yeah,
regards, Jerry in Dublin.
Words almost fail me as far as Transformers are concerned. My initial reaction to it was literally to go and bang my head against a wall, and that's just what it felt like. But it's just horrible. It's just horrible and long and loud and boring.
So, last week, it was Harry Potter. Everyone was talking about Harry Potter, and it was the big release of the week, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, HP7B. It's there. It's the UK's number 1